Hey guys, it's Turbo Tony back with another game that time forgot. In this episode we take a look at the legendary side-scrolling beat-em-up series called Bare Knuckle, better known to us as Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage is an immensely stylish side-scrolling beat-em-up video game made for Sega Genesis. When I think of that legendary console as my very first console that I could call my own, Streets of Rage is part of the few select games that spring straight to my mind. You played as a selection of rough and tumble police detectives set on taking down the ominously named Mr. X. Only through defeating massive numbers of henchmen and devastating bosses could you finally claim victory. While the original Streets of Rage was released in 1991, most of my most fondest memories emanate from its second outing in 1992, of which the footage you're seeing is captured from. In terms of art style and pure aesthetic, Streets of Rage was years ahead of where it should have been, rivaling some of the arcade releases that have been recently coming out on the Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network. Its combat was simple and very addicting, with the ability to chain together grapples, attacks and throws in a fast-paced multi-enemy fight. Back in the day, I could barely find anyone who didn't have Streets of Rage. It was part of the usual setup: go to a friend's house, play a few Mega Drive games, one of which was definitely Streets of Rage. Many of the aspects that made this game so special during its initial release are aspects that keep it so memorable to this very day. The techno dance inspired music driving you forward, the moments where you throw henchmen into a crowd of enemies, grabbing a turkey at the last moment before death. There are so many moments in Streets of Rage that are amazingly satisfying and give the game a sense of breathtaking action that most games can really only dream of. Everything in Streets of Rage just oozes cool. Just look at these guys. I want to be these guys. The henchmen themselves look awesome. The backgrounds are pretty, just to say the least. For its time, Streets of Rage was a finely tuned fighting game that it was hard not to want to play through it again after completing it. Everything worked as it should have done, and in my opinion it was one of the most polished video games of the early 90s. When you add in its ability to play cooperatively, it's easy to see why Streets of Rage was such a huge hit in its time. While the games have been re-released several times, most recently in my own experience on the Xbox Live Arcade, there was a little to see from the series after the trilogy was finished. Now, I don't know the particular reasons for this, but it may be simply because that sort of game was going out of fashion during that time, around about 1995, when the new games on the PlayStation were coming up, like Tomb Raider, who were able to offer 3D games. They basically were dominating the market. And during that time as well, Nintendo and Sony were beginning to really dominate the console market, and really, to this day, Sega would never see the heights of fame and success that they did during that period. It's true that we've seen high-scale remakes of similar games like Double Dragon, but in my opinion it's very unlikely that we will ever see another Streets of Rage game. Streets 3 was released almost 20 years ago now, and the truth is that video games as an art form have evolved far from what that game is. It would take a massive overhaul and redirection to even make the new Streets of Rage, if there was to be one, relevant in the current games market. But what I think we can all agree on is that Streets of Rage, while is a game that time forgot, is a game of pure quality. The music is absolutely superb, its gameplay timeless, and the art style is simply unforgettable. These notions in video games that are sorely missed in the current market, that thrives from accurate simulation of graphics and gameplay. Why can't we have another over-the-top beat-em-up game with ludicrous characters and enemies? Come on, just give it to us one more time. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this particular trip back down memory lane, and tell me what your memories are of the game in the comments below. Take a look at my last episode about Turrican, and last but not least, subscribe for more games that time forgot. Again, thanks for watching, and goodbye.